Candidates have to be recruited in today's times. You have to give a candidate a reason to want to join your organization.
Help us understand why it would be good for someone to want to be with you or be in your organization.
Companies are still slow to admit that it's a candidate-driven marketplace. When it works best is when there's real mind share between us and the client has a real good sense of what they're looking for.
A lot of times we work with people within an organization who are given the position from the hiring manager. And very often they then take that and they formulate a job description. And unfortunately, because they're not the person who is involved directly with this particular function, they don't necessarily have all of the depth of the details in it.
Job descriptions are generally written by human resources with a bent towards making sure they follow the law. That's not always a real crystal clear picture of what line management wants. So we're not filling jobs as much as we are seeking talent. If we don't have a good understanding of the values of that company and where it's headed, we can't find the talent.
Not getting the proper cooperation from the whole team to move as quick as we need to have them move, knowing that these candidates are in short supply and they have a lot of other options.
They have a lot of options, especially the good people, which is primarily hopefully what we're working with, but the people who are educated, professional, have a lot of experience. A lot of companies want those people.
There are a lot of companies chasing few great candidates. The companies are slow to either acknowledge that or believe that.
Primarily when it's unsuccessful, a lot of times it is regarding time. Clients are slow to respond to resume submittals, to interview feedback. I submitted a resume, probably a week later got feedback they wanted to interview the person, scheduled that for another week out, scheduled a face-to-face. Then they decided to make an offer to the candidate. The candidate had just accepted an offer the week prior.
So to the extent that companies drag the process out, they lose out on getting people.
Part of our role is really to educate our clients on the kind of timetables they need to adhere to, the kind of behavior they need to adhere to in terms of the interviewing process so they can get the candidate.
Well, it starts with being very clear about who you are and what it is that you want and what you have to offer a prospective candidate. Next, you've got to sell that to a candidate in a way that compels them to not only consider the opportunity, but ultimately get to the point where they say, I do. We've come to learn that buying motives are infinitely more powerful than selling skills. So it's critical to know who you're selling to. It's critical to know what it is that would cause a candidate to buy your job. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy to determine if you need to work on your process, because the reality is most folks think that they're doing it better than they really are. But basically ask yourself two questions. First, how many job offers am I making that are getting turned down? And secondly, do I know the real reasons why they're being turned down? Well, the bottom line is you've got to know what you have to offer, and you've got to move swiftly because the clock is ticking. Time is the enemy. And you've got to know who you're selling to. You've got to know what would make them buy your opportunity.